Hey folks, it's Brian here for another edition of West Davidson Public Library's Weird Theater. Today I'm going to be talking about the animated movie, The Last Unicorn. I was really thrilled to find out that we have this on ncdigital.overdrive.com. This was a 1982 American, British, and Japanese movie production. It was based off the novel of the same name by Peter S. Beagle, and Beagle actually wrote the screenplay that this movie was based off of. It was a Rankin Bass production. Some of you older folks may recognize the name Rankin Bass. Rankin Bass Productions made the animated Hobbit and Lord of the Rings movies that a lot of people love, the older versions from back then. This movie starred some actors of that era. Alan Arkin, Jeff Bridges, Mia Farrow, and most importantly for me, Christopher Lee are in this movie. For extra 80s points, the soundtrack is sang by the American band America, so that's part of the charm of this movie. Just like the novel and the graphic novel, this is the story of a unicorn who learns from human hunters hunting in her enchanted forest that she may be, in fact, the last unicorn. So she decides to leave her forest to go find out if this is true. And she goes on several adventures, and as she goes through, she becomes companions, or she picks up a couple of companions. One of them is Schmendrick the magician, and the other is a woman named Molly Grew. And they direct her to the castle of King Haggard. And King Haggard is the keeper of the dreaded Red Bull. And the Red Bull, I remembered as a kid, remembered from seeing this movie as a kid. I actually first saw this movie many years ago, decades ago, as a kid, and I remembered, I'm pretty sure I probably saw it on HBO at my grandparents' house. And I have vivid memories of being terrified of the Red Bull, who I just mentioned. And so I was really curious if 44-year-old Brian would have the same feelings about the Red Bull as little kid Brian did. And I have to admit, when I went back to watch this movie for the first time in decades, I had some pretty strong flashbacks when the Red Bull first shows up. It's pretty terrifying. I'm sure I understand why it scared me as a kid. I had actually thoroughly forgotten that there's another terrifying scene before that with a harpy that's really intense. So it was really cool seeing that for the first time after all these years. After finding that castle where the Red Bull is kept, eventually the unicorn and her companions find the answers to the questions she has about what happened to the unicorns. This was a really fun movie to review after all this time and check out again. It's beautifully animated. The folks who animated it later went on to form the famous Japanese animation studio Ghibli. So it looks gorgeous. The soundtrack is terribly 80s, but that's part of the charm of the movie. I mean, it's just a product of its time, and that in that case, I'm trying to say. The other thing I loved about it was the voice acting was really well done. Alan Arkin as Schmendrick, Mia Farrow as the unicorn are both really good. But for me, hands down, the standout is Christopher Lee as the villain, King Haggard. He's just fantastic. So they all do a great job. I will say I had originally thought about reviewing this as a children's movie for our family theater series we're going to start soon of reviews. But there's a few things. I will say the one thing is I love talking about this movie with people my age who have fond memories of it. And the one thing is we all fondly remember it, but the one thing we always say is how terrifying the Red Bull was. We were all scared to death of it. The other thing we always talk about is how sad it is. It's a very sad story. But one thing I had completely forgotten about, there is a sequence in this movie where Schmendrick casts a spell and accidentally brings a tree to life. And it leads to some adult humor that, depending on your taste, you might think it's funny, you might think it has aged terribly well, and you might find it downright offensive. And it's something a lot of people probably wouldn't want younger viewers to see. So that's why I decided to do it on Weird Theater instead of our family movie reviews. That having said all that, unless they're really young, kids should be able to handle this. I would say middle school or older are probably fine with it. It's, like I said, scary monsters, that one questionable scene. The one thing I will say is actually, despite how scary the monsters are, it's actually, as far as violence goes, a fairly tame movie. Nothing particularly graphic happens to anybody, except there's one scene with a dragon in it. The dragon meets an unkind end. So that's the only thing I can say in the entire movie that's violent, is what happens to the poor dragon. As a quick aside, I was overjoyed at the sound effect they used for the dragon. You get extra geek points from Mr. Brian if you can tell me where the sound effect came from after you watch the movie. I laughed out loud. It was the least scariest monster in the movie because of the sound effect they picked for it. I just laughed at it. But having said all that, it's a great movie. I highly recommend it. You can watch it for free on ncdigital.overdrive.com. Like I said, anybody my age will probably really enjoy it. You can probably watch it with a lot of younger kids, just not really young kids, because I will give the warnings. One, it has some scary monsters. Two, like I said, the tree scene is a little unfortunate at this day and age. And the other thing is, it is not a happy ending. It's not a super sad ending. It's not, it's not the saddest thing your kids will ever see, but it's definitely a sad ending. And having said that, I mean, sometimes you need some sad endings in your life. Not every story has a happy ending, and this one does not have a completely happy ending. But it is a beautiful movie with a beautiful story, and I thoroughly enjoy it. It's a classic for a reason. So if you've never checked it out, just go on ncdigital.overdrive.com. You can watch it on that website. You can't watch it on the Libby app because the Libby app does not watch videos. But if you have the Overdrive app, you can watch it there, or you can just watch it in your browser like I did. And I use screen mirroring to put it up on my TV. So like I said, definitely check it out. Once you've had a chance to see this old classic animated movie, let us know what you thought about it in the comments below. And once again, I want to thank you for coming to another edition of West Davidson Public Library's Weird Theater.